Alright, here we are back on our example map, and we are going to be showing you how to make your map a little more interesting using geometry. So what is geometry? What do I mean by that? Geometry is all of these cubes, alright? All of the solid structure of your map, everything you build with pretty much, alright? So the walls, this ladder, these stairs, this bridge, everything that pretty much is an entity like this light or a material like lava, water, clip. Alright, so all these cubes, that is geometry. So we're going to be pretty much manipulating the geometry to make our map look much more interesting instead of just solid walls like this. Alright, so let's take this wall for example. Actually, let's start off with that. Now if you look at this wall, it's very flat and plain and boring. We could just take a brick texture and texture the whole wall, and that would make sense. I mean, a lot of brick walls are just flat and boring, but we want to make it a little more interesting, so let's do something with geometry here. Now one thing you can do, the general rule is to just spend time on every little corner of your map. Alright, so even if you hate detailing, detailing is a little bit different. I personally consider detailing like the smaller stuff, like trimming around your floors or making lights or decorations, things like that. This is a little different than detailing. It's usually using larger stuff, and so even if you hate detailing, you should at least go around, spend some time on every corner of your map, every wall, and just make it look a little more interesting. So one of the things you can do is you can just pull out a little bit of some cubes here on the wall and make a pillar. Alright, just flatten a little bit so it doesn't get in the way of the flow of the map. And you can sort of copy and paste these everywhere. And these are very basic, but you can see already this map looks more, or this wall looks a little more interesting. It's got some supports here. Looks more solid, more strong, and it's got a little bit of detail and depth. Now, obviously, like I mentioned, these are very basic, so you could stick with that, but you should probably go in here and play around with it a little more than it is. Alright, you can do whatever you want. So you can use pillars like that. You could use some indents, so you can push in the other way, opposite way, and do like that, and have little cracks every here and there. Alright, you could do the forge style, like the map forge, as these long sort of trim things on the wall. You could put a lot of these randomly. Alright, and you could add some windows, which you could clip off if you don't want them as part of your flow or part of your map. Alright, you can do something like that. And let's go up here to the top of the walls. Now these are very, just straight right angles, 90-degree angles. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of a curve to this roof. Alright, and I assume you know how to make a curve by now, so we're not going to go over how to do that. Alright, so you can see the top of that wall looks better with a nice little curve. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm just paying attention to every little spot on the map, and I'm doing something with it instead of just leaving it solid boring cubes like this. Alright, I could just do even something as simple as that. Alright, or like this, just add some supports over top. And obviously what I'm doing here is just adding more blocks that I would eventually need to use more geometry or manipulate the geometry even more to make these look more interesting. But you can see what I'm getting at, hopefully. Alright, so just try not to leave your walls or your floors just solid and blank and plain and boring. Alright, try and spend a little time adding some 3D and some depth to everything.